made dua for her in this case. Now, we have another very interesting hadith that also indicates that there are levels of nur in the qabr. And of them is a hadith in Ibn Majah, in which the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا وُضِعَ الْمَيِّتُ فِي الْقَبْرِ, when the deceased is put in the qabr, مُثِّلَ لَهُ, he is made to sense or thinks that the sun is about to set. So when the mayyit is put in the qabr, he gets a sense that it is about to become dark, but it's not quite dark. And so he tries to get up and he says, let me pray, let me pray. This is a very interesting hadith in Sunan Ibn Majah. It is authentic. And from this, we can derive that the righteous person is not in utter darkness. Rather, there is an ambience of light. Because when the sun is about to set, it is not dark. There's an ambience of light. It's not shining bright, neither is it dark. It's enough for you to see and feel comfortable. So, the mayyit, muthila lahu, means it is made to appear to him. Because obviously there is no sunrise and sunset, right? It's not, but it is as if the sun is about to set. He kind of gets the sense that Asr time is finishing, so he is not fully, maybe the first day or something, he's not fully aware that he's dead maybe. So he's getting up, because the Prophet said he gets up and he says, let me pray, which shows this is for the righteous. This is the one who used to pray Asr regularly. This is the mu'min, the muttaqi. He's praying his 5 prayers regularly. So when he's put in the qabr, the Prophet ﷺ is saying, the ambience is light. It's not dark there. So this also shows us therefore that the qabr will have levels of light, and that again from the general text of the Quran and Sunnah we can extrapolate the level of lightness will depend upon the state of righteousness that is there. Now, this also leads us to another interesting question. The man is trying to get up and say that I want to pray. Is there salah in the barzakh? Is there salah in the barzakh? Well, what we do know is that the Prophet ﷺ told us that the prophets of Allah are praying in their qabr. This is something that is found in a number of traditions. Actually, even in Bukhari and other books. The Prophet ﷺ said, I passed by Musa the night of Isra wal Mi'raj. And he described how Musa looked, and he said, فَإِذَا هُوَ قَائِمٌ يُصَلِّي فِي قَبْرِهِ. He was standing, praying in his qabr. I passed by Isa, I passed by so-and-so, and they were praying, standing and praying. So, this indicates that the prophets are in salah. Now, what does this mean? And again, all of these are theoretical, Allah knows. Al-Qadhi Iyad, who was one of the greatest scholars of Andalus, and he wrote many books about the seerah, and one of the most famous books ever written about the blessings of the Prophet ﷺ is Qadhi Iyad, Ash-Shifa fi Huquq al-Mustafa. This is one of the most famous and the most blessed books ever written about the blessings of our Prophet ﷺ. Al-Qadhi Iyad's Shifa it's called, and it has actually been translated to English. You should have a copy of it and read it. So Al-Qadhi Iyad writes about this in this narration, and he says, well, it can't really be salah. It's not salah because there is no salah in the barzakh. Salah is something the mukallafeen do. So he said, salah here means dhikr and dua. Because there will be dhikr and dua in the qabr. Dhikr and dua is at every state. On qiyamah, dhikr and dua is then you make dua to Allah throughout. No time. Because we know this from the other hadith. Even the believer will make dua to Allah in the qabr. What will the dua be? Oh Allah, hasten judgment day. And the kafir will make the opposite. Oh Allah, delay. So this is an ibadah. It is taking place. It is dua. So Al-Qadhi Iyad said, this is salah that is not salah, it is dua and dhikr. Al-Qurtubi says, no, this is an actual salah. They are praying salah. And Ibn Hajar and others, they say, perhaps, he brings a qawl, he doesn't endorse it himself. He says, some have said that when the Prophet ﷺ is passing by and he sees Musa standing and praying, he is actually seeing Musa when he used to pray in this world. Because in the Barzakh, time is all the same. So it's another dimension. So the Prophet ﷺ is not seeing Musa in the Barzakh. He is seeing the semblance of Musa when Musa used to pray. How did he pray? Then he is seeing him here. But the response is that the hadith is explicit. مَرَرْتُ بِقَبْرِ Musa. I passed by the qabr of Musa. فَإِذَا هُوَ قَائِمٌ يُصَلِّي. Lo and behold, he was standing in salah. Al-Qurtubi says, and I like this is a good interpretation. Al-Qurtubi says, if somebody were to say, how come the prophets are praying and Barzakh is not the land of taklif? Barzakh is not where you're supposed to pray and fast and do tahajjud and whatnot. Al-Qurtubi says the response is as follows. In this world, the prophets felt the most peace in salah. جُعِلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ. And they felt the closest to Allah in salah. And so in the Barzakh, Allah will gift them to feel that closeness as a gift, takrima, for them to pray. It's not an act of ibadah that they must pray Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. No, it's not mukallaf salah. It is a salah of enjoyment. It is a salah they will feel peaceful praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a good response. That it's not a salah of ibadah because there is no ibadah in the Barzakh. The Barzakh is gone. The ibadah is gone. But the prophets of Allah will be allowed to pray. Now, does this mean that others will pray? And the response is there is not a shred of evidence that any other category will pray other than the prophets. Even the shaheed, we don't have any evidence he's going to be praying. So Allah knows best. This is an exception for the prophets of Allah, that Allah will bless them to pray. As for the rest of the people, there will be no salah or any act of worship. Now, the issue of the na'im al-qabr, the issue of the blessings of the qabr. Looking at all of the hadith, and we'll finish with this, and inshallah next class we'll talk about the adhab al-qabr. So we'll start with the adhab in the next Wednesday inshallah. The issue of na'im al-qabr. If you look at the na'im al-qabr and what is mentioned about na'im al-qabr, the fact of the matter is that we don't really have too much mentioned about na'im. We do not have too much mention about na'im. In fact, all that I mentioned in the last 2 or 3 lectures, this is all that we have. To summarize, of the na'im al-qabr is that Allah will allow him to pass the exam, that the qabr will be made wide, that the qabr will be made light, that the smell of Jannah, the fragrance of Jannah will be given to him, that the good deeds will come and will calm him down, that he will be shown his place in Jannah and he will say, oh Allah, hasten judgment day, and he will be shown his place in Jahannam and he will thank Allah that he would have gone to if he wasn't righteous, and he will thank Allah that he is not going there. And that's about it. There's nothing extra mentioned about this. And in fact, there is one narration that really is very, very deep and profound. And there's, as far as I have come across, only one narration, and it is authentic. It is authentic. So we base our aqidah on it. It is in Sunan at-Tirmidhi. And this narration seems to indicate that the righteous person, once they enter the grave, and the grave is made vast and light and fragrance, and they see Jannah and whatnot, they will essentially enter a trance. And they'll just live in that trance until Qiyamah. So it's not as if, and this actually makes sense to be honest, it's not as if they're living a separate life of the Barzakh. It's rather that they enter it and they are at peace. They calm down. They see their place in Jannah. They see Allah has saved them. The qabr becomes a decent and a dignified place, and then they enter that trance. And this trance has been called the sleep of the qabr. And where do we learn this from? From a hadith in Tirmidhi, that the Prophet ﷺ said after Munkar and Nakir for the righteous person, ثُمَّ يُفْسَحُ لَهُ فِي قَبْرِهِ سَبْعُونَ ذِرَاعًا فِي سَبْعِينَ. Then the qabr will be made vast for him, 70 cubits by 70 cubits. The fact that a measurement comes clearly indicates that there will be different levels for different people. So of the highest level, because we're talking about now the highest level, his qabr will be 70 feet by 70 feet, a massive room. Our rooms in our houses are 12 feet by 12 feet. And that's what we live in, right? The qabr is saying 70 feet by 70 feet. This is a clear indication that it will be different sizes. The greatest righteous man will be 70 by 70, and then there will be smaller inshallah. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, ثُمَّ يُنَوَّرُ لَهُ فِي. So, light will come to him. So as we said, the fushatul qabr and the nurul qabr will come for the righteous. ثُمَّ يَقُولُ لَهُ نِمْ. He will then be told, go to sleep. Now, sleep and awake are something we associate in this dunya. And in the barzakh, the ruh and the body are not directly connected. So what is the nawm of the qabr? Allahu a'lam. But it is, we'll call it in English, a trance. You are put in a different state of mind. The man will say, let me go back to my family so I can tell them everything is good and fine. This indicates that the man has now realized he's dead. That the man is now fully aware that, okay, this is it now. Now everything is good. Alhamdulillah, I'm at peace. I know my family is still terrified. I know my family is worried. He will say, let me go back for a good reason, nothing for a bad. And the angels will say, go to sleep. The sleep of a bride. The sleep of, actually a groom here. Al-arus is the groom here. The sleep of a groom. That basically the symbolism is being given that on the wedding night, yani after the wedding night, mashallah tabarakallah, then you go to sleep, mashallah tabarakallah, right? That is a deep sleep. So then the angels say, go to sleep the sleep of that groom who knows that the next morning his beloved will wake him up. Right? That peaceful sleep of the night of the wedding. After the wedding, Allahul Musta'an. Yani, what happens, right? But that night of the wedding, we have that peaceful sleep. This is in the hadith, by the way. That نومة العروس الذي لا يوقظه إلا أحب أهلي إليه. Go to sleep, that sleep that you know now that the next morning who's going to wake me up? The most beloved person in the world is going to wake me up. That gentle waking up that will happen the next morning. You can look forward to that. Now the angels say to him, go to sleep, that type of sleep. Now what is this sleep? Allahu A'lam, we don't know what it is. It's the alamul barzakh, but we can understand what it is. It is a type of trance. You just go and you freeze up, basically a peaceful sleep, and you look forward to being woken up. It's not a terror, it's not an adhab. You are now in a limbo state, and you will remain that way until the resurrection. And the final point, and then we open the floor for Q&A. And this is in fact proven in the Quran. قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا. They will say, waylana here doesn't necessarily mean adhab. So, oh my God, what's happening? There's also wail. What's going on here? There's a state of discomfort. قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا. Who has brought us back from our place of sleep? Marqad in Arabic is ismu makanin, is a noun, proper noun for the place where you sleep. Or more technically, where you go take a nap. This is marqad. This is literally what marqad means, where you take a nap, the qaylula, the siesta. Because you know, you go to sleep in some cultures, you would have an inner private bedroom, then you would have just a place outside where you just sleep for a while. That's the marqad over there. And this indicates, what were the people of the barzakh? Asleep. Asleep, the sleep of the barzakh. That's what this hadith proves. Now, who is this given to? It is given to the righteous person. As for the unrighteous, we seek Allah's refuge, they will not go to sleep. They will not be in, because sleep is bliss. Sleep, you just are in, you forget the worries of this world, and even in the barzakh. As for the unrighteous, we ask Allah's refuge, there is no sleep for them. What is it? Adhab. And we will talk about the types of adhab and the categories of adhab and the main causes of adhab. We'll talk about that inshallah next Wednesday. With that, we open the floor for a few minutes of Q&A inshallah, then we call it a day. Bismillah, yes.